And tonight, a surprising twist to our Don't Trash Our Treasure segment. We went out to cover one story and stumbled upon an even bigger, more pressing situation.
Yeah, colonies of threatened corals that were about to be obliterated. Had our local 10 cameras not been there with a team of researchers and scientists at the right place at the right time. What started out as a peaceful morning on Biscayne Bay with a team of NOAA scientists monitoring the thriving urban coral reefs near Port Miami quickly turned into an urgent coral rescue operation.
It's a mess of pilings and everything.
But let's start at the beginning. In early June, a seawall collapsed at 40 Star Island on Miami Beach. It happened when the property owner began work to make improvements to the 100-year-old structure on land using sheet piling, not anticipating that torrential rains would weaken the foundation and cause the seawall to crumble right into the bay.
A lot of corals live on the seawall here all the way down.
It was a catastrophic event for the urban corals that for 100 years had been living on that very seawall. The majority of them did not survive.
It was truly devastating. When this seawall collapsed, it flattened everything that was living on it underneath. And so there was no chance of survival. Those corals were lost.
But not all of them. NOAA was able to save 36 of the corals, and in August transplanted 15 of them to the Coral City Camera Reef off Port Miami, where today they continue to thrive.
So far, they're looking great. You know, the first several days after transplantation are kind of the most critical.
Following that low there. So.
Yeah.
But when we went back to survey 40 Star Island with NOAA last Thursday, we were surprised to find contractors on site getting ready to rebuild the collapsed seawall. Alarming because any type of construction in the tidal flow would impact living corals on the adjacent property.
These species are particularly threatened, and so we want to remove those species that need higher levels of conservation and ensure they thrive.
Miami-Dade's Department of Environmental Resources Management was not notified and did not authorize the work. But there was no time to waste. There were still living corals there that needed to be saved.
Anything that you find that's recoverable, bring it up here and we'll bring it back to the lab.
The NOAA team was able to recover 4 living colonies.
Wow, it's a good size. This is Montastria cavernosa, the great star coral.
Corals that would have otherwise been lost.
And this is a Copophilia natans. That is a beautiful coral.
At a time when climate change and stony coral disease have wiped out more than 90% of Florida's total coral cover. But not these. These urban corals are somehow thriving in the most challenging of conditions.
These urban reefs are truly a gold mine for both understanding how corals can survive in variable environments, but also in how we can help corals survive in a changing climate.
Coral rescuers, activate.
Again, this was not expected. The team did not have the proper coolers and equipment to safely transport the corals back to the lab. So enter Colin Ford, who manages the urban reef across the bay at the Coral City Cam at Port Miami. Remember, he adopted the first batch of rescued corals back in August and was only too willing to provide safe haven for these new coral refugees.
I'm very hopeful for these corals. We have a place that the corals clearly do quite well in their natural habitat, and the scientists are able to rescue them as soon as possible.
Live well, my friends.
And so the corals were on their way to a new life across the bay, where scientists believe they may hold the key to saving the world's dying coral reefs. That's why this accidental mission was so important.
We had a day to get those 4 or 5 corals out of the water before they put a seawall in. We did get lucky. I don't know if we would have gotten them if we hadn't come out today.
We did get lucky. We also reached out to the property owner at 40 Star Island, who says he applied for an emergency permit to repair the seawall 4 months ago. But Durham says that's not accurate and that the department has not received his request for authorization to rebuild the seawall. Durham only granted a permit for temporary shoreline stabilization methods, which the department says were fully implemented by his contractor last Monday. But again, the big takeaway here was the amazing communication that took place between the regulatory agencies and the research community, who were then able to rescue those 4 precious coral colonies in the nick of time. I mean, had we not been there, the contractor literally telling the scientists, hey, we're getting ready to pour concrete here, we would have lost those corals, and we need those corals, every last one of them.
That is just incredible, right place at the right time.
Yep.
That's terrific.